Hello booktube and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing what I'm going to call a weekly bookish discussion. That's what I'm going to go with. This is number 2. What I've read this week. This week was graphic novel heavy, which is awesome because I'm trying to up those within my reading. So what I finished this week was Tumor, which I said I was going to read next, and that's by Joshua Hale Filikov and Noel Tuazun. I think I said it right last week, and apparently I'm not going to be able to say it right this week. So this was a medical noir. Now, the main premise of this, and I'll do this in a non-spoilery way because it's basically on the back anyway, is it's an old school private investigator style noir detective story. So we've got it's all sort of in sketchy and black and white, and I hope that's in focus. The old school detective, and when I mean old school, he's old and he's old school, has been diagnosed with a brain tumor on his occipital lobe, something like that. So what happens is his time becomes very fluid for him, and he's being employed to find a local massive head of the drugs cartel in I think it's Florida, Los Angeles. There we go, Los Angeles. He's been employed for big money to find a local drug dealer cartel owner's daughter by the actual drug dealer himself. What it boils down to is, instead of being wanged on the head like they do a lot in detective novels, he's got this internal thing basically switching him on and off. He can't remember what's going on at any one time. He can remember what's going on, but he can't work out what time he's actually in, if it's a memory or he's actually working on this problem. The problem being is the girl that he goes to find, to him, looks a lot like his wife, and his wife was murdered by someone in the very similar position to the drug cartel. The ending of this was brilliant. It worked out really interestingly, to put it in a non-spoiling way. But I was kind of, the illustration was great. The way they treated the time shifts was great. But the plot, I felt, was a little bit lacking in substance. So if it wasn't for the ending, it would have been a 2-star read. It was a 3-star in the end because of the ending. So not too bad. I don't know, I got it in a comic bento, and it was a comic bento printing. So I don't know if it would be worth buying on its own, but it's certainly worth the read for the way I got it. Next in the, also, and I will put this up here because I don't have I have a digital copy of this. I bought in a Humble Bundle, comic bundle, and that was Bitch Planet Volume 1. Oh my god, oh my god. I've got to read Volume 2 as soon as. It was amazing. I sent out a tweet of they've got anti-feminist, if you could term it like that, ads at the end of each issue, and it was there was one for basically anti-bitch pills, which absolutely cracked me up. And I showed my partner, and he sort of jokingly, and he better be joking, he sort of looked at me and went, "So where do we get these?" I'm like, ha ha ha. There was less tasteful pills called instead of Viagra, Niagara, for a similar sort of issue. I'm not going to go into that one, but they're so funny. but what they're poking fun at something that is actually a really important issue. And I find that one of the best ways to open people's eyes to issues is actually to put them in a humorous manner. It's a bit like the Colbert Report, where he was pretending to be this right-wing nut job in order to shine a light on how ridiculous right-wing nut jobs are. So basically, Bitch Planet is a planet where Earth has decided that women need to conform to certain 1950s-esque ideals, body shape, behaviour. But if you don't conform to these and you have a certain number of infractions against you, you get sent off to this planet. It's not a country or a place or a prison. It's a planet of women who compete against each other. I think that's what they're setting up. They use it as a prison for all the bitches, but it's bitches according to men who have the 1950s sort of, your little woman should be at home in perfect makeup and perfect hair and perfect house and perfect kids with the perfect martini ready for you as you come home. It's an amazing sort of call out on how far will this anti-feminist nonsense go, and I'm really incredibly enjoying it. And I like this the satirical nature of the whole package. So I read that I think I gave it 5 stars. It's either a 4 or a 5. I'll put it up below, whatever I say. So next I read Snow White, and I can't remember who that's by because I borrowed this one from my library, and it was the graphical representation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs set in the 1920s in New York, I think, and where the 7 dwarves are actually 7 boys who are street boys. And it's just this beautiful sort of Brian Selznick style graphic novel where most of it, there's very little reading, but there's a hell of a lot of beautiful illustrations where colour is used incredibly masterfully by everything where she's depressed, Snow White is depressed or is in trouble and that sort of thing. It's all grey or like washed out green, and of course the apple is bright red once everything turns out all right at the end, because we all know it's a retelling, we know what happens in Snow White. All the colour comes back into the boys, and because she adopts them all the colours there, and these boys all of a sudden come alive in the sketches rather than being washed out and in the snow. So that was just gorgeous. I'll put up how many stars that one was. I'm also much further way through A Theatre of Gods. I'm now 340 pages through, so I've read a good 300 pages since I last did this. Since it's hit page 300, it's been an incredibly meaty, really well structured plot. Up to page 300, it was incredibly funny, but it jumped all over the place. So that's going well. Once I finish that, at the moment, what I'm thinking I will read next is, and this was on my February TBR, Margaret Atwood's The Penelopade. So that one's next. I'm still reading. I've had a bit of an issue with the audiobook volume for the last 2 stories of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, so I haven't progressed very much on that because I've been lazy and can't be bothered sorting out why the download didn't work. Next, in my graphic novel readings, the first one of these 2 will be what I'll be reading next during my breakfast eating, and that usually lasts a couple of days, is either Witchblade Rebirth, and I got onto these ones because I found the trading cards. I love trading cards. I've loved trading cards since I was probably about 10. And I found these and I ordered 2 boxes online and got 4 original art sketch cards from the creators of Witchblade. And since having gone back into trading cards about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, sketch cards is something new, and I'm so incredibly into these things. They're awesome. So I want to actually get into the series so I know what's going on. And that one's Rebirth Volume 1, and it doesn't say who it's by. Mark Silvestri, David Hall, Brian Halliburton, and Michael Turner. So lastly, what my up-and-coming graphic novels. I got this a while ago, like when I still had a comic book store, which I don't anymore, and that's the Dark Crystal Creation Myths Volume 1, and this is obviously by Brian Froud. Love Brian Froud. Brian Holguin, Alex, Shakeman, Lizzie John. I like Lizzie John. I can say that one. So I grew up on Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and all of those sorts of things, and I'm just completely in love with anything that comes out from the Jim Henson production company. So, and that's the sort of thing you get in Witchblade. The last one that I'm going to talk about is one I DNF'd, which I do not do very often, but I was completely unaware that it was a series of short stories, and I just got sort of frustrated with them, and that was the Magic for Beginners by Kelly Link, I think it is. I really liked the first book, the first story, which was about a woman who was hunting for her grandmother's magical fairy purse, and that story was amazing. But then it went into this one about zombies that I wasn't sure if they were zombies or just people who go to convenience stores at night. And then there was one about rabbits and a haunted house, but it wasn't exactly a haunted house. It was the people just said that the dishwasher's haunted, and then the soap keeps getting haunted, and the TV's haunted, and they just get rid of their items and then paint more. And it was just, okay, I know I have a problem with short stories. I've liked 2 volumes of short stories I've ever read. I, Robot, because it had a strong, incredibly good through line. Thackeray T. Lamb's Head's Cabinet of Curiosities, and that was a book about all these random items that live in this Dr. Thackeray T. Lamb's Head's house that he's collected over his travels throughout the years, and that was done by Jeff and Anne Vandermeer. That was amazing, but once again, it had a very strong through line about these magical items that this one person had collected. And I think I think that's why I kept trying to give it a go with this Magic for Beginners. I thought it would have a nice, strong through line, and it didn't. If it had kept going on things like the first story about a fairy purse that this girl had lost and lost her best friend in, it would have been great, but it didn't quite know what it was wanting to be. There was magic, fey magic, then there was random zombies, and then there was hauntings with rabbits that had little men on them. It was all it was trying to cover too much in a short story, and you just can't do that. So I got about halfway through. I got 51% because it was on my Kindle, and went, I can't do this anymore. This is just awful. Like I'm reading it, but I'm not enjoying it. So gone. And now I'm doing the read along with Novelty Corner, and I'll link it down below, her read along of Frankenstein. And I've started that and I've read the first 2 letters and I'm making notes for them. That covers Kindle, physical book, graphic novel, audiobook. Yep, I've done them all now. That's what's going on in my reading life. Thank you very much. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, comment, and any questions you have, please don't hesitate to ask them below. I say that on emails all the time. I don't mean it. I do mean it now. And I hope you're having a lovely reading time. Bye.